So this is Brachot Perek Bet Mishnah Bet. It's almost a continuation of the previous Mishnah. It says Mishnah Zoi Hemshech HaMishnah. It is actually a continuation. Mishnah Zoi Hemshech HaMishnah HaKodemet. This Mishnah is actually a continuation of the previous Mishnah. Elu hen ben haprakim. It tells us all the places what it's considered to be in between. What's in between? Shel kriyat Shema uberkotea, of the Shema and its blessing before it. Shemutar להפסיק בהם לשאול בשלום ולהשיב לשלום. That you're allowed to stop over there to ask about somebody's well-being and to answer about your well-being. כפי ששנינו במשנה הקודמת, like we said in the previous Mishnah. בין ברכה ראשונה לשנייה, we said there are two blessings of Shema before the Shema, so you're allowed to stop in between the two blessings. שלפני קריאת שמע, that are before the Shema, דהיינו בשחרית, in שחרית, לאחר שמסיים ברכת יוצר המאורות, it's after you finish the blessing of creating the luminaries, ולפני שמתחיל ברכת אהבה, and before you begin the blessing of love. ובערבית, and in the evening, לאחר שמסיים ברוך המעריב ערבים, after he finishes the blessing, blessed are you that brings in the evenings, ולפני שמתחיל לאהבת עולם, and before he begins the love of the world. Okay? בין שנייה לשמה, between the second and the Shema itself, בשחרית, אחרי ברוך הבוחר במו ישראל באהבה, in shacharit, the blessings right before Shema ends with who chooses this Jewish nation with love, ובערבית, and in the evening, it's a different blessing, אחרי ברוך אוהב עמו ישראל, the one who loves his nation Israel. לפני התחלת שמע ישראל, before you begin the Shema Israel, that's the in-between. So in between the blessings, and then in between the blessing and the Shema. Next, ובין שמע לוהיה עם שמוע, between the first passage of Shema and the first passage of והיה עם שמוע, and it was if you're going to hearken to my ways, to listen to me. כשמסיים וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, when he ends, and you should write them on the doorpost of your house and in your gates, לפני שמתחיל והיה עם שמוע, before you start, and it was if you're going to hearken to my ways. And then again, בין והיה עם שמוע לויאמר, and in between, if you're going to hearken to my ways, that passage to the passage to לויאמר. כשמסיים כימי השמיים על הארץ, when he ends with the words like the days of the heavens upon the earth. לפני שמתחיל פרשת ציצית, before he starts the portion of ציצית. And then again, בין ויאמר לאמת ויציב, between that passage of ויאמר to אמת ויציב, to truth and strong, לאחר שגומר פרשת ציצית, after he finishes the portion with the ציצית, ולפני שמתחיל אמת ויציב, before he starts אמת ויציב. ובערבית, and this is in the morning, and what about in the evening? לפני שמתחיל אמת ואמונה. So in the morning you say אמת ויציב after the Shema. In the evening you say אמת ואמונה after the Shema. So in the evening it's before that part. Truth and belief. Rabbi Yehuda אומר, Rabbi Yehuda is going to disagree. בין ויאמר לאמת ויציב לא יפסיק. It says it shouldn't be a stop between the last portion of the Shema, of the four parshios, to after that to say emet v'yatziv. It should be one continuous. You shouldn't stop in between them. Lo yafsik, you shouldn't stop. Ben ani Hashem Elokechem le'emet, between I am the God your Lord to truth, because you want to in tune that God is truth. Lo yafsik la'al, it says you shouldn't stop at all. Afilu kmo be'emtza parasha, you should treat it like in the middle of the passage. Vehu hadin be'arvit, and it says the same thing. It is in the evening, ben ve'yomar le'emet ve'emunah. In the evening, exactly the same thing between the truth and belief. Sheyesh le'asmich Hashem Elokechem le'emet, that you have to connect God your God to truth. It says, where do we learn that? That you have to connect God your God to truth? Mishum shekatuv b'Yirmiyah, because it's written in the prophet Yirmiyah, והשם אלוקים אמת, that God your Lord is truth. ברם, but, בין אמת לביציב, after you say the word emet, even though it's the middle of the passage, right there, מותר להפסיק כמו באמצע. You're allowed to stop just like in the middle of the passage. So in other words, you're going to take the passage of emet, ויציב, and you're going to take only the word emet and connect it to the Shema, and after the word emet, you can consider it as a place you can stop, even though it's the middle of the passage. הרמב"ם מפרש, the Rambam explains, בין ויאמר לאמת ויציב לא יפסיק. Between ויאמר לאמת ויציב you shouldn't stop. כמו בין הפרקים. Just like in all the other ones that you think you could stop. It says no, you shouldn't. אלא כמו באמצע לשאול מפני היראה ולהשיב מפני הכבוד. You can only stop to ask a king, to say shalom aleichem to a king, or to answer from a rabbi. Okay? In other words, this is like Rabbi Yehuda that we say the halacha is the king. Amar Rabbi Yoshua ben Karcha. New subject now. Rabbi Yoshua ben Karcha said, Lama kidma parashat Shema levaya im Shamoa. Why is the Shema first and the Vahaya im Shamoa second? You could put the Vahaya im Shamoa, the second passage first, and the Shema second. Why did he decide to put Shema first? למה הקדימו חכמים בקריאת שמע פרשת שמע לפרשת והיה עם שמוע? Why is this first and והיה עם שמוע the second? אם נאמר מפני שקדמה לה בתורה, so some says you know why that passage comes first, because it's first in the Torah. Says you can't say that. Why? הרי ציצית קודמת בתורה לפרשת שמע. It says that cannot be the reason, because tzitzit, the third passage, should be first, because that's the first passage in the Torah. וסידורה היא בקריאת שמע באחרונה, and in the Shema it is the last one. So it's obviously we don't go by the way it's written down in the Torah. So why do we go by? אלא מכאן שסדר הפרשיות בקריאת שמע אינון כסדרה בתורה. So from here we learn that the parshiyot are not the way they are mentioned in the Torah itself. אם כן, מהו הטעם שסדר הפרשיות בקריאת שמע? So why did God put those passages in Shema this way? אלא but לפיכך הקדימו שמע לוהיה עם שמוע. This is why they put the Shema passage first and the second is והיה עם שמוע, כדי, because he wanted to do something. What did the sages want the person to do? כדי שיקבל עליו האדם עול מלכות שמיים תחילה. First, the sages want you to accept the yoke of heaven. הכלול בפסוק הראשון שמע ישראל, and that's the intention of the Shema that, as we mentioned before. Shema Israel means a person that says everything is God, which means God is one, God is everything, therefore I should accept His authority over me. This is accepting the yoke of heaven. שתוכנו, that the main part of this verse is אמונתנו במציאות השם, that we believe in the existence of God וייחודו, and that He is one, He's unique, He's everywhere. וזהו היסוד והעיקר בקיום התורה, and this is the basis of fulfilling the entire Torah. ואחר כך, after you accepted God as your king, then you're going to accept each individual commandment of God. But if you didn't even accept Him as a king, what does it mean accepting the commandments? You don't even accepted Him? ואחר כך יקבל עליו עול מצוות, and then you're going to accept upon oneself the yoke of the commandments. כמו שכתוב בפרשה, just like it says in the second portion, והיה אם שמוע תשמעו אל מצוותיי, and it says if you're going to hearken and listen to my commandments. What's the commandments? לאהבה את השם אלוקיכם, to love God your God, ולעבדו בכל לבבכם ובכל נפשכם, to serve Him with all your heart and with all your soul. ולמה קדמה פרשת והיה אם שמוע לויאמר? So why is the second passage before the third passage? לפרשת ויאמר. והרי גם בויאמר, also in the third passages, בויאמר יש מעין קבלת עול מלכות שמיים. It is similar to accepting the yoke of heavens. וגם קבלת עול מצוות. And it also includes in it both. It has both the yoke of heavens and the yoke of accepting particular mitzvahs. So that should be first. שכתוב פה, because it's written, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי. It says, so that you're going to remember and you should do all my commandments. And then it says, אני השם אלוקיכם, I am the Lord your God. So it says, so why that third passage we don't put first? שהיה אם שמוע נוהג ביום ובלילה. Because, as we said, that at that time they didn't say the third passage during the night. So they wanted to say a passage that you say both day and night to be first. שהיה אם שמוע נוהג ביום ובלילה. Because אם שמוע you said both. The second passage you said both day and night. While the third passage at that time they didn't say it night. כלומר שפרשת והיה עם שמוע מדובר על תורה ומצוות הנוהגות בין ביום ובין בלילה. We're talking about commandments that one does in the day and in the night. וביומר אינו נוהג אלא ביום. And ויומר it talks about tzitzit. And tzitzit you only do during the day. ואילו בפרשת ויאמר, in פרשת ויאמר, מדובר בעיקר על מצוות ציצית. It's mentioned specifically the commandment of tzitzit, שאינה נוהגת אלא ביום, that you only fulfill it during the day. Therefore you don't want to emphasize it before the commandment that you feel day and night. כמו שביארנו כבר בסוף פרק א', like we already explained in the end of this first chapter. ויש מפרשים שפרשת ציצית אין נוהגים לומר אלא ביום. There are those who says that the Parashat Tzitzit, you don't say it all, unlike we do say it. But some people say you don't say it at all during the day. You only say it during the day. בגמרא מוסיפים עוד טעם לסדר הפרשיות. In the Gemara they say another reason for the way the passages are set up. שפרשת שמע כוללת שלושה דברים. It says the Shema itself includes in it three things. What are the three things? ללמוד. The first thing is to learn. Where does it say to learn? It says, ודיברת בם, you should speak in them. It also includes ללמד. It also includes to teach. ושיננתם לבניך, it says you should teach them to your sons. And it also includes ולעשות. And it also includes to do. As it says, וקשרתם. And you should tie them, וכתבתם, and you should write them. So since it has three things, it comes first. פרשת והיה עם שמוע כוללת רק שני דברים. The second parsha, והיה עם שמוע, includes in itself only two things. ללמד, to teach, ולימדתם אותם אל בניכם, and you should teach them to your sons, ולעשות, and to do. וקשרתם וכתבתם. And it says you should tie them on a sign on your hand, and you should write them as a mezuzah. פרשת ויאמר, and פרשת ויאמר, אין בה אלא לעשות בלבד. It only has to do. It doesn't have to learn, it doesn't have to teach. As it says, ועשיתם כל מצוותיי. It says like it says, and you should do all my commandments.